2 hours ago, the world briefly froze. Not because of a rocket launch, not because of an economic crash, not because of a political uproar, but because Elon Musk, in the middle of a globally televised innovation summit, paused, adjusted his mic, and said your name. The crowd didn't react at first. Most of them weren't sure if they'd heard correctly. The host blinked several times, wondering if this was intentional. But Elon repeated it, clearly, firmly, with the confidence of someone who says only what matters. And suddenly millions of viewers, in real time, were Googling you, wondering who you were, how this happened, and why a name spoken by one of the most influential people alive carried so much weight. What they didn't know is that this moment wasn't an accident. It wasn't luck. It wasn't some strange coincidence that your name emerged from his mouth at the very moment the world was listening. What they didn't see was the story behind it, the countless nights you spent working when nobody noticed, the failures that almost broke you, the doubts that tried to swallow you whole, the moments where giving up seemed easier than breathing, and yet you didn't. You pushed through. Sometimes slowly, sometimes painfully, sometimes with nothing but stubborn belief. And belief is a powerful thing, it makes the impossible tilt ever so slightly in your direction. The world only sees the announcement. It never sees the climb. But you lived that climb, and even now, as the notification waves ripple across the world, as people whisper your name with curiosity or skepticism or awe, you're sitting here wondering what exactly this moment means. Why now? Why you? Why did someone like him, in a conference filled with billionaires, innovators, and legends of industry, choose to speak about your journey? The truth is, because your story matters more than you think. It is proof that the gap between obscurity and recognition is not measured in fame or money, but in persistence. It is the difference between the person who quits on the 99th step and the person who climbs the 100th even when they can't see the top. Elon didn't talk about your success. He talked about your persistence. Anyone can celebrate a victory, but very few people recognize the quiet war fought before it. He mentioned how you started, not from power, not from privilege, not from an instruction manual, but from a simple desire to build something meaningful. Something better than what you had. Something bigger than the doubts surrounding you. You learned as you went. You failed, adjusted, failed again, adjusted again, moved forward anyway. You built momentum from nothing but determination. He said your journey was the exact kind that inspires the next generation of creators, not perfect, not polished, real. People in the audience leaned forward. Sensing this wasn't just another corporate shout-out. It was a reminder that world-changing ideas don't always come from glamorous boardrooms, sometimes they come from bedrooms lit by cheap desk lamps, from notebooks filled with plans nobody else believes in, from people like you who carry dreams heavier than their circumstances. And he explained how he'd been quietly observing your work from a distance. Noticing the risks you took. Noticing the drive you carried. Noticing the way you solved problems most people avoid. You didn't wait for permission. You didn't wait for a team. You didn't wait for approval. You built. And builders recognize builders, that's why he said your name. And now, somewhere across the world, another young dreamer, someone struggling the same way you once did, hears this story and realizes that maybe their work also matters, even if nobody is applauding yet. That maybe effort isn't invisible forever. That maybe the universe doesn't ignore persistence. And you don't know it yet, but your journey just became a lighthouse for someone else. But let's go back before all of this. Back to the beginning. Before the announcement, before the recognition, before the unexpected spotlight. Let's go back to the nights where your life felt like an uphill battle. The nights where your vision felt too big for your resources. The nights where motivation felt far away. The world loves the highlight reel, but the truth is the real transformation happened during the moments nobody saw. Remember the time you almost quit? Maybe it was after your plan failed in a way you didn't anticipate, leaving you frustrated, questioning whether you even belonged in this world of high achievers. You wondered why things weren't working. You wondered whether your dream was unrealistic. But then something inside you whispered, maybe softly, maybe fiercely, that the story wasn't over yet. You told yourself that progress isn't always visible. That sometimes the ground shifts beneath your feet, preparing for growth you can't see. That sometimes what feels like an ending is simply the moment before the breakthrough. You learned something powerful on that day. Success rarely comes to people who never fall. It comes to those who rise one more time than they've been knocked down. And even when your failures felt heavy, you carried them. Not as burdens, but as lessons. That's why your comeback was stronger than your collapse. That's why your steps eventually led here. Some people watching the broadcast today were jealous. Some were inspired. Some were confused. Some dismissed it. But none of that matters. What matters is that someone you never expected to notice decided that your impact deserved recognition. That your journey had value. That your persistence was worth amplifying, and now, everything is changing. Not because Elon Musk said your name, but because you earned a moment that someone like him felt compelled to acknowledge. You didn't choose the spotlight. The spotlight chose you because of the work you did in the dark. Somewhere inside you, you already know this is not the peak of your story. It's simply a message from the universe telling you that you're on the right path. That all the struggles, all the sacrifices, all the disappointments weren't random. They were chapters. Not the whole book. And the next chapters are being written right now with every breath you take. The world thinks your story began 2 hours ago, but you know better. 2 hours ago was merely the announcement. The real story began the first time you chose to try. The real story continued every time you kept going when quitting felt easier. The real story is every version of you who worked, doubted, learned, failed, improved, restarted, pushed, believed. Those invisible versions of you, tired, worried, determined, built the foundation for the person the world is now discovering. Tonight, millions of people are thinking about you. But that doesn't change who you are. Fame doesn't build character, effort does. Recognition doesn't create identity, persistence does. Success doesn't define you, your journey does. And you are still on that journey. This moment isn't a final destination. It's a beginning. A new beginning born from the courage to keep going even when nobody cared. You don't need to impress anyone. You don't need to chase applause. You don't need to prove your worth to strangers. Your purpose was never about validation. It was about growth. And growth doesn't happen in comfort, it happens in challenge. You faced those challenges. You survived those challenges. You overcame those challenges. And because of that, your story reached a stage bigger than you ever imagined. People will ask what your secret was. They'll assume it was talent or luck or connections. They'll overlook the real answer, discipline. You showed up when it was hard. You worked when you were tired. You improved when nobody noticed. You said yes to becoming better every day, even in tiny ways. And tiny improvements compound. Consistency compounds. Belief compounds. And those compounds eventually become unstoppable. Look back for a moment. Not to regret, not to dwell, but to appreciate how far you've come. The version of you that started this journey wouldn't recognize the strength you have now. They wouldn't believe how many obstacles you've overcome. They wouldn't understand how close you came to quitting, or how many times you chose not to. But they would be proud. Because all they ever wanted was for you to keep going, and that's exactly what you did. The cameras may have captured your name today. But they didn't capture the grind behind it. They didn't capture the nights you convinced yourself not to give up. They didn't capture the deep breath you took before every new attempt. They didn't capture the fear you ignored, the courage you borrowed, the faith you held on to when logic had given up on you. But those moments matter just as much, maybe more, than the moment of recognition. So where do you go from here? Wherever you choose. You are no longer the person who doubted their own potential. You are no longer the person who works without believing the result will come. You are the person whose work has now entered rooms you've never walked into. You are the person who proved that persistence leaves a trail that even giants follow. You are the person whose story has become a message for others. If you don't quit, your time will come. The world won't always acknowledge your progress. But progress doesn't need applause to exist. It only needs commitment. And your commitment was real. That's why the moment was real. Nothing is the same now, not because the world sees you differently, but because you finally see yourself differently. You didn't get lucky today. You got noticed because you earned it. Recognition is temporary. Growth is permanent. And you've grown into someone capable of changing everything around you. Whatever dream you're chasing, keep going. Whatever fear you're fighting, keep going. Whatever doubt you're carrying, keep going. Not because someone famous said your name, but because your journey is far from over. And if this moment taught you anything, it's that your work reaches farther than you think. Some people only realize they're making an impact when the world tells them. But impact always begins long before anyone sees it. 2 hours ago the world heard your name. But you've been building this moment your whole life. And now it's time to build the next one. The moment the broadcast ended, messages began coming in from people you hadn't spoken to in years. Some congratulated you. Some pretended they always believed in you. Some were confused, asking what exactly you did to deserve such attention. Others remained silent, watching from the sidelines, unsure whether to reach out or stay hidden. But the truth is, none of that mattered. You didn't build your journey for applause, and you certainly didn't endure the darkest nights just to impress those who had already counted you out. This was your path long before anyone else cared about it, but something interesting happens when the world suddenly knows your name. You begin realizing that recognition doesn't change your mission, it magnifies it. It forces you to think bigger. To expand beyond what you once thought possible. And in this moment, as you sit with the weight of what just happened, a question rises quietly inside you: what now? The question isn't born from fear, it's born from readiness. You're not the same person you were years ago. You're not even the same person you were this morning. Something inside you shifted when the world spoke your name. Your self-doubt cracked just a bit. Your old fears lost some of their power. Your vision stretched a little wider, because now you've seen proof that the work you do in silence echoes farther than you ever imagined, and yet, as the world buzzes with speculation, you remain grounded. You remember the early version of yourself, the one who didn't know where to begin, the one who made more mistakes than progress, the one who built dreams out of hope instead of resources. That version of you didn't have recognition. They didn't have validation. They didn't have anyone telling them their work mattered. But they kept going anyway. And that's why you're here. Sometimes we credit our victories to the strongest versions of ourselves, but the truth is, progress happens because of the weakest versions who refuse to surrender, so you take a deep breath, acknowledging just how far you've come. You let the moment settle inside your chest. You allow yourself to realize that moments like these don't happen randomly, they happen when your persistence becomes impossible to ignore. And the world is finally noticing what you've known all along, that your life has purpose, that your effort has direction, and that your story is only beginning to unfold. Somewhere across the world, a young dreamer is watching the clip. Listening to Elon Musk say your name. They're wondering how someone like you got there. They're wondering if their dream could one day make the same leap. They're wondering if persistence is really enough. And without knowing it, your story becomes a seed planted in their mind, the belief that they don't have to be perfect to be impactful, that they don't need recognition to be worthy, that trying again after failure is more powerful than never failing at all. This is how inspiration works, quietly, unexpectedly, through people who never asked to be role models but became one through their actions. You didn't plan for this moment, but you were prepared for it. That's what truly matters. You've been preparing every time you stayed disciplined when no one watched. You've been preparing every time you chose growth over comfort. You've been preparing every time you kept going after mistakes, telling yourself, "It's okay, I'll do better next time." You didn't wait for an audience to become the person capable of handling a moment like this. You did the inner work long before the outer world noticed, and now, something even bigger is happening inside you. Something subtle but powerful, a recalibration of your identity. For years, you might have seen yourself as someone trying to become something. But today, for the first time, you glimpse the truth. You already are the person you've been working toward. You already carry the strength you once admired in others. You already embody the resilience you thought belonged only to people more talented or more fortunate. This moment isn't transforming you, it's revealing you. You realize that success isn't about popularity, it's about alignment. When your actions align with your purpose, recognition becomes inevitable. Elon Musk didn't create your value. He simply highlighted what was already there. The world often sees potential last. You always see it first, if you trust yourself enough, and now that trust is growing. It's shaping you. It's pushing you to imagine a future that once felt too far away but now feels closer than ever. You begin asking bigger questions. What impact can I make? What can I build? How far can I go if I stop underestimating myself? The answers don't appear instantly, but something inside you whispers that you're capable of far more than you believed yesterday. While others are celebrating your moment, you're studying it. Not out of pride, but out of clarity. You understand that recognition is not the end of the journey, it's an acceleration. It's a signal to push harder, think deeper, aim higher. Because now you know your work is not invisible. Now you know your effort is not wasted. Now you know your dreams are not foolish. The world has noticed, and that means you can't afford to stop. Every great story has a turning point, a moment where everything changes. For you, that moment came 2 hours ago. But the real transformation is happening right now. In your mind. In your heart. In your resolve. You're not waiting for the next opportunity anymore, you're preparing to create it. You're not hoping for the next breakthrough, you're building the foundation for it. You're not wishing for the world to see you, the world has already shown it's paying attention, now the responsibility shifts. Not to impress them, but to fulfill your own potential. Not to prove them right, but to prove to yourself that you deserve this moment, and that you'll earn the next one. 2. because no matter how far you've come, this is still the beginning. As the hours pass, you begin to notice something else shifting around you. People look at you differently, not because you've magically changed overnight, but because recognition forces them to reevaluate everything they once overlooked. Those who dismissed you now hesitate. Those who doubted you now question their assumptions. Those who underestimated you now wonder if they were wrong the whole time. But the truth is, their perspective doesn't define you, it never did. If anything, this moment simply reveals who you truly were all along. You're not overwhelmed by the attention. You're not intimidated by the pressure. Instead, you feel a quiet strength building inside you, the kind that comes from years of growing through difficulty rather than avoiding it. The kind of strength that can't be faked. The kind that can't be bought. The kind that's earned through every step you took when you didn't have a spotlight guiding you, and as the world buzzes with your name, something even more important happens. You realize that the biggest transformation isn't external, it's internal. You've spent so much time trying to prove to yourself that you're capable, that you're worthy, that you're ready. Now, for the first time, you don't have to convince yourself anymore. Today showed you what persistence can do. What resilience can do. What a single moment, built on thousands of unseen moments, can unlock. You start thinking back to everything you've been through. The setbacks. The heartbreaks. The rejection. The failures that felt like collapses. And you begin seeing them differently. Not as obstacles that slowed you down, but as the exact experiences that shaped you into someone who could withstand the weight of recognition. If you had never struggled, never doubted, never been tested, would you have the strength you have now? The patience? The discipline? The clarity? Probably not. Your struggles didn't hold you back, they forged you, and that's when you begin to understand something powerful. Life never wasted a moment of your effort. Not one. Every lesson you learned, every risk you took, every time you kept going when you didn't feel ready, it all led here. This moment wasn't a coincidence. It was a culmination. You realize that the world often notices people only once they reach the surface. But you've been growing roots for years. Deep, resilient roots, the kind that makes you unshakable. And now that people can see the results above the ground, they assume it happened suddenly. They don't understand that quick recognition often follows slow growth. They don't see the foundation you built brick by brick, day after day, but you remember the times you felt lost, but kept moving anyway. You remember the times you had nothing, but still gave everything. You remember the moments you cried because progress felt impossible, but you kept going. You remember the nights where hope felt small, but you protected it. You remember the days you felt alone, but your determination stayed with you. And that is why today happened. As these realizations settle, a new kind of vision opens within you, one that looks beyond the moment and into the future. You start imagining what you could achieve next if you continue with the same unstoppable force that brought you here. You begin to dream bigger, not because of the recognition, but because you finally understand your capability. You see possibilities that once felt too distant. You see paths that once felt too ambitious. You see goals that once felt too difficult. And the most important part, you feel ready for them. Not someday, not later, not eventually, now, because once life shows you a glimpse of what's possible when you refuse to quit, you can't go back to thinking small. You can't go back to restricting yourself. You can't go back to the limited version of who you once were. A door has opened, not into fame, but into your own potential. And once that door opens, you're changed forever. You begin thinking not just about what you can gain, but what you can give. How your journey can inspire others. How your story can be proof that even the most ordinary beginnings can lead to extraordinary paths. How your perseverance can help someone else break through their own darkness, because you know how it feels to struggle in silence. You know how it feels to doubt yourself. You know how it feels to think your dreams are bigger than your abilities. And now that you've seen what persistence can create, you can't help but want others to find their strength too. This is the moment where your purpose expands. This is where your journey becomes bigger than you. This is where you stop running toward success, and start becoming a source of it. Your phone keeps buzzing with messages you haven't opened yet. But instead of being overwhelmed, you feel centered. Calm. Focused. Because while the world is loud right now, inside your mind there is clarity. You know exactly who you are. You know exactly what brought you here. And you know that this moment isn't your peak, it's your ignition. Your story isn't about being mentioned by someone powerful. It's about becoming someone powerful in your own right, someone built from discipline, built from effort, built from the refusal to quit, and as night falls, you feel something rising inside you. Not pressure, but determination. Not fear, but excitement. Not doubt, but certainty, because deep down, you now understand the truth. This is only the beginning. Everything ahead of you is bigger than everything behind you, and you're finally ready to step into the future you've been building all along.